So basically, what they are kind of cushion padding in the parliament by saying medical board आपका देखेगा, medical board certify करेगा. You basically want me to strip. You want to feel my breast, you want to touch my neo vagina, want to see what is there to be able to give. What? So for them, we are dignity-less people whose body has to be screened to get your identification.
Our transgender community has received a massive setback. The Indian Parliament has just passed a set of amendments to the 2019 Act that recognized transgender identity and offered legal protection and rights. These amendments are going to lead not just to the erasure of transgender identities, but also hand over discretionary power to outside entities over individual identities. To understand how these amendments will disrupt life, why the government was in such a tearing hurry to make these changes to the law, and what happens next, I'm talking to Zainab Patel. You've met her before on this show. She's one of the leading spokespeople for trans rights in this country, an expert on corporate DEI initiatives, and also someone who's been a petitioner in not one but two landmark cases that fought for the rights of the trans community as well as the LGBTQI community. Zainab, thank you for talking to me at what is clearly a very, very difficult time. What are we looking at, Zainab? How much of a disruption are you going to be facing because of this new law and the amendments that it has brought in?
We connected exactly last year. And at that point of time, I was so confident, irrespective of what Trump or the West does, India will continue to be a leading light on the DEI front. We have extremely protective legislations. We have the NALSA judgment, we have the Navtej Johar, the Puttaswamy judgment, and absolutely nothing will move the foundations of this judgment. And then you have 13th of March 2026, where literally out of the blue, you have the government tabling this bill in Lok Sabha. And initially, a lot of us, when we came to know of it through a random news article, we thought this was a hoax, I mean, someone playing a hoax with us, it's March and we're nearing towards April Fool's Day. So a lot of us actually thought that, and nobody knew about the bill. That was what was really strange.
Yeah.
We literally had to dig in. We went to the PRS website, dug this out, and I said, oh my God, this is what has triggered this bill. The first reaction was that why would the government betray us? And I don't have any other words to say except there is a sense of extreme betrayal by this government, because never before in the history of various bills in this country has a community never been consulted
Taken
on something.
Yeah.
Something as drastic, as life-changing, life-altering, erasing, and you decide not to speak to us before introducing a bill like this?
What is coming to light as to the reasons and the compulsions that drove the government to bring this amendment bill out and get it passed?
See, the activist me sees one reason and the rational me sees the other reason. So I'm going to speak the rationalist reason first, and I believe that as a secular practicing Indian citizen who believes in constitutional values, that this government brought in a bill. I would like to believe this, that the government brought in the bill without fully understanding the implications of what it has. And this is a understanding flaw, confusing identity with sex characteristics. I mean, if I were to just basically say that you have a terribly bad idea about who a trans person is, but the activist me says that, isn't this a pattern of this government? With the Muslim triple talaq bill, the farm laws, the UGC Act, etc. If this is not about the government creating further fissures and divisions amongst the most marginalized, so that they are actually bogged down in all of this bureaucratic red tape, that there will be no time for dissent coming up. I just believe this is another thing of, silencing and cutting people off. So, there is no need to silence people. Once you cut them off the system, they can keep barking, they can keep howling, screaming outside, but no one is going to hear you. So I see this as, a clinical approach to removing, I don't want to use the word disease, but I mean, the government is treating us like a disease part of the body and just cutting us off the system, so there can be absolutely no recourse to justice.
The government says that the previous law was making it difficult to identify and assist those facing extreme and oppressive discrimination due to their biological condition, and that this if was actually a way to protect the community. This doesn't stand any test, does it?
First of all, being a trans is not about being a biological problem at all.
Yeah.
So I think the flaws start,
Yeah.
popping up in the language right from the statement of intent.
Yes.
The second thing is that there is no competition amongst the most marginalized to determine who amongst them is the most marginalized to be in the forefront to get benefit.
Yeah.
There isn't a scale for Dalits. There isn't a scale for manual scavengers. There isn't a scale for Muslims to prove who amongst them. Because on the other hand, when the government says that, we want to look at marginalized communities on the basis of economics, of poverty. So here, to say that on the grounds of biology is removing their thinking philosophy totally out of the picture. So for me, the rationalization doesn't make sense. If you are saying these are a marginalized community, you cannot cherry pick the better looking ones or the worst looking ones and say that, you need this more than anyone else.
And what are we talking about? In the 2011 census, we're talking about a community which was around roughly 5 lakhs, right?
4,87,600.
In 2011.
10.
So, like you said, in this community, which is less than 5 lakhs as of our last census, you are trying to say that government benefits can be targeted better because of this law is unacceptable. It does not make any sense.
No, there is another one. Was of course the intent. Who does this get to? See, this is not about giving dole.
Exactly.
This is not, Anuradha, about giving money to reach the most. It is about according recognition. It is about giving protection, because this bill is not talking about what scheme comes to you like a ladki behan.
Correct.
It's not a financial bill. It is a bill recognizing identity, recognition, penal conditions.
Yeah.
So you are saying that, okay, you may be who you are, but I think only these people are going to be mine. You cannot segregate that next. The second thing is that, you rightly pointed out to the census figures, but I'm going to give you a different spin on this.
Sure.
And I am going to be apolitical and say this. When it came to the Tukde gang, when the Home Minister was asked in the Parliament, do you have any numbers on them? There's zero response. Here the government says, okay, there are some people in the systems who are not supposed to be the intended beneficiary, and people are abusing the system. Amongst 4,87,600 who were counted as the third gender. Now it didn't count people like me who identified as female.
Right.
Okay, so I'm just saying, mota, that is the, let's forget all of us who may count as male, female, whatever. It's a smaller number. Amongst that, it's only 30,000 people who have got a transgender ID card. Amongst 30,000, it's only 1,500 approx who have got an Ayushman Bharat card. There is no scheme of the government which is giving roti, kapda, makan and saying, okay, you are the... So And look at the expenditure of the government.
Hmm.
Year on year, more than 90% of the funds are returned. So, and their most expenditure is on the Garima Grah. So they are telling me after running a Garima Grah program for close to 5 years, they have realized that there are fake beneficiaries. And to rule out the fake beneficiaries, I'm also giving them benefit of doubt. They say that there are, I won't call them fake, I will call them not deserving as per the government's criteria. But the government did not determine a criteria then. So to call them undeserving or the wrong kind of people is an extremely bad judgment call to make. But having said that, I'll say that, okay, there could have been some abuse of the system or from the beneficiary perspective. But will you, out of that 1500, 2000, 3000, the Garima Grah is, I'm also saying this, there are about 11 to 14 Garima Grahs as of now.
Yeah.
Each
Zainab,
Garima
tell
Grah,
people what a Garima Graha does, the
okay, so
security
Garima,
it offers. Yeah.
Garima Graha
Yeah.
in simple Hindi is a shelter home for homeless trans people or people in transit who are looking at some kind of alternative housing arrangement, getting upskilled and then asked to return back to society through a job or whatever. So
Sure.
the government runs this along with certain civil society organizations. I think the last I counted were about 14 or 15. Each Garima Graha, each house is supposed to totally reach out to 25 people in a year. Only 25. So how much would 15 make that? Less than 1,000. So that is also problematic for you to be able to you're not able to find the right kind of beneficiary. And if you have wrong beneficiaries according to you, would you penalize lakhs and lakhs of people in order to root out from the system a few hundred, maybe, perhaps, I don't know, because there is nobody giving the numbers.
Yeah.
So for me, if nobody is giving numbers, they're just talking on mere assumptions or
Right.
presumptions or just trying to create fear mongering. Oh, they're getting benefits, it's not. There is a crazy member of parliament, Dr. Shabri from TDP, who kind of said that, oh, tomorrow we have the women's reservation bill and some of them may get it and we don't even know who they really are. But is anyone asking her to prove if she's a real woman? And what is the definition of a real woman? Is it a menstruating woman? Is it a non-menstruating woman? Is it a person with reproductive rights? No, I mean, no one has asked them for that. So, I mean, this is nothing but rubbish fear mongering which they have learned from Uncle Sam of the US.
Yeah. You know, you said right on top last year, in February last year, Zainab, we had such a long conversation trying to look at the kind of targeting that Donald Trump and his executive orders were doing to the trans community and the kind of ripple effects it may have in the rest of the world, and here we are. I was looking at some of the language in the bill, right? Do you think where is this coming from? I'm still not getting a clear sense of why the government did it, given we're talking about such small numbers, such small benefits, to use that term.
For people who have not even received one scheme access, you are determining whether they should be called trans or no. And you know where this is coming from? It's coming from a lot of homophobic, transphobic people who have used all of their pent up homophobia and transphobia to penalize us through a poorly written, totally misunderstood, ill constructed, and punitive bill. Because if somebody, I don't want to name her, she's a woman, I'll respect that, a senior economic advisor of the government of India under Dr. Virendra Kumar, when he called for an emergency meeting of the council members, he called them up at 12 a.m. in the night and then asked them to come for a meeting the next day. The gentleman did not even have the courtesy or the guts to face the community. I believe he feigned an illness or a family emergency not to face the community. He sends his economic advisor of his, who, as a matter of shame, also happens to be a woman, is the most transphobic, vile person that I've heard about. She did not allow anyone to record the conversation, did not allow any photos or videos. Community people who are members, ex officio members of a statutory body, When they asked her, why is it that the government introduced this bill without talking to us or consulting us? The person has the audacity to tell them, we know what we had to do. We did not feel the need to consult you. Amongst the many other things, I'll go just say three statements which I feel show the mental depravity in this group. The second comment was about rape, rape penalty. Here it is up to 2 years. So when the person said the women have, perpetrators of rape, sexual assault against women have up to 10 years. Saying that because your anatomy is different, you cannot get your abusers cannot get the same penalization as those of women. So the act is not problematic. Because your anatomy is different, the punishment is less severe. So what are you giving? What is the message that the government is sending this? So go ahead and rape them, you can get out in 2 years. Go ahead and abuse them, you can come out with a lesser penalty. The penalties that they are increasing is for under the guise of, alluring them, helping them support. So tomorrow, if for example, Anuradha, if you decide that I feel I'm a trans woman, Zainab, do you think you can guide me into surgery? And this is what peer groups do.
Yeah.
What women do to women, what men do to men in their circles. Trans people are they also rely on peer-based information and where they feel safe. Tomorrow, if I decided, you decide, Zainab gave me wrong information, let me go and file a complaint against her in the police station. You are sending for that penalty a higher penalty than those who are abusing you. And the third and the last one is, they said, okay, what about parents who abuse their children, who beat them up, who, they said, no, it is their, the children should remain with their parents. No one is going to go behind the parents. Even if they are abused, they should be with their family. When you come across statements like this, including those members of parliament who went on and on and on about medical, so basically what they are kind of cushion padding in the parliament by saying medical board aapka dekhega, medical board certify karega, you basically want me to strip. You want to feel my breast, you want to touch my neo vagina, want to see what is there to be able to give. What? So for them, we are dignity-less people whose body has to be screened to get your identification. And not by one person, is going to be a panel.
This is a huge setback. Will you explain to people who are not directly affected how it's going to disrupt life for transgender folks?
So until now, it was self-identification, which was the basic principle of the NALSA versus the Union of India case. Whether if you self-identify, that's enough.
Yeah.
The government has to issue the government has to approve an issue. Here we are saying they are going to validate you. So for them, they are stuck on with some idea about genitals, gonads, chromosomes, hormones, which has nothing to do necessarily with the transgender person. Now, just if I were to simply say, until today, I could determine what I identified. My sex certificate at birth doesn't tell me how I will grow up as an individual. This is not about consensus. I don't need to build consensus with anyone as to how I need to identify.
Yeah.
Similarly, like you do not have to build consensus with someone if you identify as a man or a woman. And nobody undergoes any test to prove that they are man or woman. They only have a birth certificate which tells them at the time of birth, these were your genitals and hence you are male or female or intersex.
Sure.
Or not determined.
Right.
There is no transgender person at birth. There is no transgender children.
Yeah.
All of this nomenclature is nothing but rubbish and unscientific language being used. So I come to you with an issue to help me get a certificate. The premise is that I'm coming you to validate my existence. But you are coming from the point that I will determine if you are trans enough for me to certify you as a trans so that you get an ID card.
Yeah.
That is the biggest crux of the thing. And in a country where each state has indigenous trans identities, like we come from Maharashtra,
Yeah.
you have the Jokta community or the Jogappa community, and these are basically people dedicated to the Devi goddess.
Yes.
And there are men and women both. So I want to know whether the women also get counted as hijras or no. Because the government has made a blanket call for that. They talk about Arvani.
Yeah.
Arvani is a term that is not used in Tamil Nadu from the last several years now.
So, in fact, one of the things that this bill says is that it identifies certain people, socio
Yeah, so sure.
socio-ethnic,
Cultural.
cultural groups. I don't Kinnar, Hijra, Arvani, Jogta. They will be recognized, right? They have listed these names now in this new law. What? But somebody who has transitioned will not be recognized.
Whether someone has transitioned or not transitioned, they will not be recognized. An intersex person did not choose to recognize himself or herself as a trans person. You have forcibly put them under that. So you are saying if you are a Hijra, you are a Kinnar, you are a Jokta, you are an Arvani. These four identities only, and those with intersex conditions get recognized. They have left out trans men, they have left out trans women. And I also belong to the Hijra community, although I'm an educated person. I work, I don't
Your guru was, yeah.
yeah. So today we don't have a central ID system in the Hijra community that certifies me as a Hijra. So I don't know how the government intends to even understand these are people from the Hijra community, because we haven't given ID cards to anyone. So first of all, what was the tearing hurry in this economic recession and all of this hostilities in the world to come up with this bill and hastily pass it?
Yeah.
But also having such flawed, the government may have made mistakes in the past with different bills, but to bring in flawed language, flawed understanding, and extremely flawed implementation. I sometimes feel sorry for those MPs who had to stand up for the bill and make those comments. I don't even think they would have agreed to it if they had a conscience. They've just been reading reams of paper without even understanding what they are talking about.
Zainab, has this created divisions within the larger transgender community? Is there a sense of we've been recognized, you don't belong? Is there something going on beneath the surface where the community is concerned?
See, fortunately, as of now, those rifts have not surfaced yet. We are still trying to tell people all over, I'm using the BJP slogan against them. Ek hai to safe hai. Not one against the other. Because although it specifically calls out the Hijra Kinnar community, they will be the most vulnerable in this. Because even if they identify, they have to remove their clothes in front of them. Tomorrow, what is the thing that they will not keep a vigilante move on them? What do they do? How do they do their earnings?
Yeah.
Why are they begging? Why some of them do sex work? And if the government is really keen on bringing in a moral code, the first one to go would be the women in sex work and the trans people, and then the other minorities. Because this is for them Ram Rajya, right? Deal with us, get rid of us. Today I'm not a politically correct person at all today.
You can't afford to be, isn't it? When there is such a assault on your rights, on your identity. Is this going to have retrospective application?
I believe everything is from a retrospective. There is a danger of even the existing ID cards to be cancelled. Because if the premise is that there are few faulty people in the system who are taking advantage, how would you know one versus against? And if you already knew who was the problematic person, you would have kept them out of the picture. I have a transgender ID card for this because I believe that as a trans person, there should be some registry with my data. But I'm not enrolled in any scheme. I change my documents and my gender much before NALSA, much before the
Yeah.
this thing, because I underwent all this. I am now tomorrow, if for heaven forbid the government doesn't think that I am a trans, will they look at me and say you're a man? Looking like this with breast, with the absence of a penis, will they call me a man? I don't know what else they will. Because if you're not trans, you're not a woman, then that would make you a man.
So this is what it means when you say that this is erasure. This bill, this law will
Yeah,
lead to erasure of identity.
totally. Like, I mean, just if I'm not a trans woman and I cannot be a woman, definitely according to those MPs who argued against us, then what does it leave me? Because it doesn't recognize animals. I'm only left to be a man.
What happens next then?
One mad member of parliament called trans men lady boys in parliament. Can you believe this? Is lady boy a term to be used?
What's the recourse? Is there the, I mean, but you have petitioned the courts previously. Is this something that gets challenged in court? Is this and what are we going to even expect from the courts at this point of time?
See, we did a lot of political advocacy across party lines.
Yeah.
Across party lines. We also reached out to the BJP, knowing that there was no hope from them. There were some good assurances given that at least the definition will be expanded. We said we will challenge it the remaining parts as we go along. But not a word was not a dot from the document was changed. I am I am actually happy that in spite of the numerous references to Lord Rama and to the Ardhanarishwars in the parliament, which got a little too much for me, they called us all of that. And what you want to do is you strip your people who believe that we are blessed by God. You want to strip us. So our option right now is hoping against hope that the president, in her infinite wisdom, would be looking and not signing the bill. It's a long shot. I know she will sign the bill. But the moment it is signed, it becomes an act. We will run to the Supreme Court. And because the Supreme Court in the NALSA versus the Union of India case under the various Constitution article of 14, 19, 15, 21 looked at us as, under equality, under dignity, and along with the 14 judge bench of the Puttaswamy judgment, which was which looked at these as inalienable, it will be difficult to implement the act as it is. But seeing what we see in the Supreme Court from these last 2-3 years, it's difficult to say. Some members of parliament, some members of the community went to meet a member of parliament, Kiran Rijiju, at his residence. And although he was the parliament affairs minister, he said, this has nothing to do with my ministry. I don't even know anything about the bill. Go to the court. If the constitution, there is the constitution of India, kuch nahi hoga. Agar unko galak lagta hai, they will strike it down. I just read what I was asked to. He was so dismissive. And the only reason he met them is because they were people from the Northeast. But they were not humans. So we will go to the Supreme Court, we will fight it out. And even if we fail over there, I think there is time for us to start a civil non-cooperation movement. We won't submit ourselves to get recognized. We're not doing it for the schemes.
But Zainab, if you continue to live without this kind of security or the legal recognition that the 2019 Act enabled, what are the kind of security concerns, the physical and the mental well being of people that will
Two
be
people have
affected?
already committed suicide, Anuradha. so many people are in the hospital right now as we speak who are going through extreme anxiety. I have a video. I don't want to. A young trans identifying person said, "I'm tired of living this double life." You do not know the kind of anxiety people are in. They are not able to see anything for themselves. So, and just as in, I'll just speak with a little bit of tears in my eyes, but imagine not being able to see what the next few days holds for us. And it does affect us. We don't have our families for support. There is a young trans woman called Sunny in Delhi. She's a fashion designer. She lives away from her family. Her family called her up and told her, now with this government doing all of these things, you will have to come back to us and live like a male. And imagine what the public is going to do to us.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, to give us a house, they are going to ask, are you a real trans person or no? Show us your ID card. So, what the government is actually doing to one of the most marginalized communities in India is to push them towards harm's way, to push us so that we either commit suicide and get out of the way or create so many roadblocks that we just don't appear in any government record. So sorry for this.
I'm sorry, Zainab.
I'm not the one who cries, but just what my community is going through.
Yeah, I know. You fought so many battles, Zainab.
Yeah.
More battle to fight. है ना?
Yeah. We will fight, we are strong, but the people on the field absolutely who are away from any support system. Doctors are now, there are two doctors in Delhi who are doing surgeries. One of them is saying that until I get clarity, I will not do surgeries.
So you're saying gender reassignment surgeries that have been lined up are all going to stop?
Yeah, there are some people who are now cautious about it. Who wants to get into red tape now? Because the hospitals also have to report back to the government.
Yeah, yeah.
It will also push us towards going to quacks now to get surgeries done.
I think I would like to say that you have support in the larger community, at least some and many sections, I hope, of the larger community. We will stand by as you wage this battle. And what can I say? I can't even say I wish you luck. I just wish you justice, and we
Yes,
really
wish
hope.
us justice. That's all we need at this point.
Yeah.
And someone to tell this government that, I mean, look at other issues of the country at this point of time. This is something that you don't need to do now or 100 years from now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I hope people listen. I hope people can
Yeah.
understand what someone is going through. And, perhaps I think I want you to leave people who are watching this with this concept of gender identity, and how that has nothing to do with the sexual and reproductive system that you were born with.
See, when I was born 45 years ago, my birth certificate shows that I was written as a female, striked across and put male. And even if I was born as a male, over the years, your sense of identity starts becoming stronger. You have physical traits, you have a personality that develops. Gender is something that also develops your sense of who you are, not what your body tells you. That is the entire thing around trans issues. It is not someone who is born with ambiguous genitalia, a penis and a uterus. Those are people with intersex condition.
Yeah. Yeah.
Trans people are those people whose sense of gender is different from the sex that they were born at birth. So I was born and classified as a male, but over the years, my sense of identity is that of a woman. Some of us choose to undergo surgery, take hormone treatment,
Yeah.
become some versions of me. There are trans men, just like I'm a trans woman, but there are so many people who, due to lack of access, poverty, conditions at home, for many other reasons, are not able to complete all of these steps. All of these are also trans people. So it is a sense of identity and expression.
Yeah.
Versus intersex people are those who are born with genitalia, chromosomes, or gonads, or hormonal issues. And the intersex people never asked to be classified as trans. I think it's the biggest disservice to them as well.
In this new.
No, they didn't ask.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why will an intersex person be called a hijra? They don't want to be called a trans.
Thank you for being so candid with your emotions. Thank you for explaining to us what is at stake here, and what an individual's rights are in this context, and how it plays out, and how society first and then now the government
Yeah.
starts, blocking it. So thank you, Zainab, and we'll keep talking.
Thank you so much.